Welcome, everybody. It's the ride with Chevy and Nasty here on a chilly, windy, stormy, cold August night here in Calgary. Maybe not so much for Chev. Chev's on a vacation again. I don't know how you do this. You're always on vacation this summer.
You know what? I got three vacation weeks in the year, and I spaced them out this summer so that I could have them. At different times. But I'm in Panorama. And I don't know if you were welcoming me or welcoming all the gang to the show. But you know what? If it's cold there in Calgary, it's cold here. In fact, we are hoping that when we wake up in the morning, there's no snow. So.
One good thing came of it today, though, and this kind of got me excited. It kind of got me thinking of you a little bit. We're coming back after that practice where, thank God, I was coaching at least wearing a hoodie, so I could handle that quick wet temperature change. But we're so hungry and so cold that we made a quick hit to stop at McDonald's afterwards. And we went there just for a bag of double cheeseburgers for me and the boys. But there's something new on the menu this week that got me really excited. I don't know if those of you guys out there have seen it yet, but McDonald's has brought the Big Arch sandwich. They used to have like a McArch or something back in the day. Back in the 90s, they had it. But this thing is like the McArch on steroids. This thing's got, it's like a double quarter pounder. So it's got 2 quarter-pound beef patties layered with 3 slices of white processed cheese. So not the orange cheddar. So they went with a total different cheese profile, topped with crispy onions, slivered onions, pickles, lettuce, and delicious Big Arch sauce. Chev, when I saw that thing, I thought about that. I thought about that day you called me, that night you called me up, all excited about the McRib, which turned out to me, and I think most of our listeners and viewers, a bit of a bust. But this Big Arch thing, have you guys seen it yet? Has anybody tried it yet? Apparently, it's only in Canada. We're one of like the 3 test markets in the world. You can't get it in the States. You can't get it in Japan. You can't get it in Bolivia.
So what was the verdict? Is it good?
I didn't get it. I got the double cheeseburgers. I was a creature of habit. I looked at I instantly regretted not getting it, but I wanted something small and fast, right? So this thing's a monster.
Listen. So what you guys don't know is like, and you'll hear one of the lines in the poem, like, I don't hear from Sheldon for like a week. It's like Tuesday, and the last time I heard from Sheldon was when we said goodnight after we did the show a week ago. And we got a little chat group going with Daryl, our executive producer. We got Trey, our intrepid producer, that we'll talk a little bit about later. And like we got topics flying back and forth all week, like big things happening in the world. You talk about like controversial CFL endings. You talk about quarterbacks busting. You talk about like everything going on, even political stuff, RFK endorsing Trump, like everything going on. And we're all kind of going back and forth all weekend. It's like radio silence from Nasty, like radio silence. I'm on my vacation, and I'm a little bit nervous. Sheldon. Well, hold on, let me finish.
Okay,
I take Sheldon on Saturday. Hey, is everything okay? I hear nothing. I'm like, man, something's up. Where's Sheldon? Like nothing. And then all of a sudden, like the Haley's comment, pipes in at 9:55. Guys, have you guys tried out the McArch? Like this thing is. So
I came in like a wrecking ball.
We opened the show with your sandwich. After all the topics that we threw to the side, we opened the show with your sandwich, and you didn't even eat it.
No, but it just came out today. I was like shocked. I didn't know what to do. I froze, Chev. I froze.
You froze. You know what? That is a fail. That's an like.
You know what? You know what?
We gave you the primetime spot. We gave the McArch the primetime spot. The pre-music Arch speak where everyone's tuning in. Rubio's there. You're not talking about poutine. You could have got everyone hooked onto the sandwich, and you fizzled it. Guys, did Nasty fail? I think he did.
No. Here's the thing. I'm not buying it for the whole family on the first time it's out. I'm going to try it myself, determine if my kids like it, because my kids just like simple stuff. But yeah, if you're disappointed, I get it. I accept that. Like I said, I froze. It happens to everybody, right? I'm up there on stage. They handed me the mic, and I like bag of cheeseburgers.
But you know what? Sometimes even when you lose, Sheldon, you win. And we're going to talk about that tonight. We're going to talk about a whole bunch of things. We're going to talk about a Labor Day match coming up between, obviously, 2 rival teams, between the Stamps and the Rough Riders. We're going to talk about QB controversies. We're going to talk about old school team rules. And do they still apply today? A whole bunch of stuff. We've got a fun show for you. Sheldon's in Calgary. I'm in Panorama. We appreciate you guys joining us right here on the ride. Okay, so before we get started, we want to say, first of all, thanks to all of you tuning in tonight. We know there's a lot of you guys that are talking about Sheldon's burger that he didn't eat. We're brought to you every week by Performance Freight Management and We Drone Real Estate Media. And we appreciate the sponsorship. We appreciate that you're all here on the show live with us. Nana Mana, we're always going to give her a shout out because she's a loyal listener. Rubio's there, Daryl's there.
We have both Ernie and Diane Regas in Regina joining us tonight.
Yes, so it's going to be a great show. Before we get into the poem, Sheldon, I just want to ask you, we both, obviously, people know, both our sons play on the same football team, the Bantam Mavericks in Calgary. How did our game go on the weekend? Not so bueno?
First game, it was a new team, two teams amalgamated that we've beaten each of the last 12 straight seasons. But you know what? They came up with a tight end and a slot back, kind of a wing formation that we weren't ready for on game one. And honestly, defensively, the boys did good. It was we scored a safety on the first play of the game. We took a 2-0 lead into the fourth quarter. But you know what? They came up with a couple plays. I think their very first pass play went for 70 yards. And then they beat us on another toss around the corner. After we had a pick six, an interception, but we pushed the quarterback down, and then we just couldn't score. Chevy was a rough one. That's why I was so excited on Saturday. I went straight back to the film and started breaking down what can we do with these boys so that they can win next week. And I wasn't
now this isn't going to break the Vegas line or anything, but I heard that we're out a starting quarterback when I return next week. Is that the truth?
Yeah. We lost our quarterback. Yeah, we lost the quarterback. Now we still got a very capable second guy. First year, he moved up from Pee Wee last season, and he's going to be growing up in an awful hurry here. But he knows the offense. He knows what he's doing. It's up to us coaches to put him in a position to win, right?
And open auditions for a backup.
Open auditions for a backup. Yeah.
Are you going to jump in? Because what people don't know is one day we were running a drill and no kid wanted to jump in. So who jumps in at the nose guard position? Nasty just dusts it off and starts just beating up on little kids. It was awesome to watch.
Well, I played linebacker today. Yeah. Love it.
Well, listen, let's get on with the show. We'll talk a little bit more about the Mavericks later. Right now, we got some 300-pound poetry. It's a staple. Trey, hit us with the splitter. Is the music playing?
That's it.
Is it playing? I don't hear
it. I hear it.
Oh, I don't hear it on my end. Sorry. We are 300-pound poets. We love our 300-pound treats. If we were 300-pound rappers, we'd have 300-pound beats.
A controversial point gave the Argos a win with a rouge against the Riders again, who found another way to luge.
The Battle of Alberta is coming up between two teams still alive. The Stamps have been sputtering while the Elks are beginning to thrive.
Both teams know the stakes. The rules in both cities the same. They don't care if you win the Grey Cup, but just don't lose the Labor Day game.
That's the truth. That's the truth. We got lots to cover tonight, from QB controversies to QB busts to bands reuniting to hockey haircuts.
Chevy and Nasty are here. Sometimes it requires a higher power, but we're glad that you made it. Thanks for joining us this hour.
Yes,
and thanks
sir.
to Trey, our intrepid producer, who oftentimes is our higher power, to make sure that the trains are running on time and that he gets everything put together at the last minute.
So thank you
to Trey.
Yeah, and I tell you what, I apologize. It's not Trey's fault. I'm doing I'm doing a live stream on my iPad today, and there's a little different functionality. Like, I can't see all the comments. I actually got to press on comments, and then I get this kind of opaque gray screen over our camera so I could read some of the comments. And when video or audio plays, I have to actually hit my screen to hear it, but I didn't see anything for the audio there. So You might have to cue me if you do anything audio. But yeah, let's get to the story of the week in the CFL. We always keep our CFL talk for the second segment. But this week, I put out, after the Argos beat the Saskatchewan Roughriders on a Rouge, which for those of you who don't know, the Rouge, for our American friends, is a point for a kick that would be missed that goes through the end zone, or if a returner gets tackled in the end zone. So let's say you put the ball and it goes deep into the end zone. The CFL end zones are 20 yards deep. If the returner doesn't return it out of the end zone, they give up a point. So the Rouge is a unique Canadian Football League rule. And, it adds for a little bit of excitement. It adds for a little bit of spice. And, in certain situations, it adds for a little bit of controversy. So let's roll the clip, Trey, to show how that game ended the other day, and with the Toronto Argonauts winning after missing a kick.
Down to 0, final play for the walk-off Argo win. Iralau heading left. It heads out, but it's a single point, and it doesn't matter. He kicked it far enough, didn't get the field goal.
I mean, that's unreal, right? Like, there's so much drama going into that. You're tied up. It's all about, can you get down there for the kick? And even we forget about the Rouge rule sometimes. You watch Saskatchewan celebrating, the linebackers jumping up and down, waving wide. And it took even the commentators a minute to put it together. So here's my question to you. Is that one of the great traditional CFL rules, or is that the cheesiest way to lose a football game? Line up for the kick, you miss it, we win.
It's definitely a tough way to lose a game. But, I mean, the Rouge has been around for a long time. The Rouge affects play even throughout the course of the game. So, yeah, when you see it at the end of the game for a game-winning kick, and that kick could be the difference between winning and losing, of course it's a little tough to swallow. But, it's the same for both teams. Teams prepare for that. Like, we've always prepared to either have a run-it-out situation where you put 2 or 3 returners, depending on the length of the kick. Back in the day when we played, guys weren't kicking 50-yard field goals regularly. It seems like kickers have evolved, and a 50-yard kick is kind of bread and butter for most guys in their arsenal. Whereas before, that was a big kick, and oftentimes anything above 45 yards was being missed. So you always had a kick-out team, which was one returner in the middle in case the kick went short, and he's got to return it out of the end zone. And 2 kickers on the side that could kick it out, right? It was always that, the kick-out team, and they were instructed to kick the ball out of bounds. So kick it out of the end zone, but out of bounds. And that was a kick-out team. And that was part of your special teams week. You usually practiced it, and not really practiced it hard, but usually prepared for it, let's say, on your day before the game, just to make sure everyone knew, hey, in this situation, if we're tied, the other team's going for a long field goal, this is what we're going to do. How many times I've had to prepare or been involved in a game like that? 0. But it has happened. It has happened. Go ahead.
I think, and you nailed it too, it wasn't designed to be a scoring play in the history of the game. It was a carryover rule, right? Like, the NFL, you give up your touchback in your 10-yard end zone. You give up a touchback, you get the ball at the 30 or wherever they get it now. This was really a way to almost a carrot and a stick, right? You had to risk something if you wanted to just take a knee. If you wanted the ball up at the 35 or wherever the CFL has it now, where is it, Jeff? 35?
I believe it's 35.
Yeah. That is going to cost you a point. Early in the game, those points feel almost meaningless, right? But as you get towards the end, it can definitely be the tiebreaker. And now it's just evolved into where, this fluke thing of missing a kick for the win. But the other one that really gets me is, and we're talking about this before the show, when you get the new returners, usually this happens early in the season or when you've just brought a guy up from the NFL, right? And you're used to the conventional kickoff return rules, punt return rules. But, where you get the ball and you end up, it's not like you went back in for a safety. You recover it in your own end zone and you give yourself up. You take a knee thinking you're helping the team out. Last year, what game was that? There was a game that it cost, was it
Edmonton, Saskatchewan? The Elks returner had just gone into town. He was an NFL guy. wasn't familiar with the CFL rules, which happens every time teams bring in a new guy. It seems, and it's their instinct, right? It's their instinct just to down the ball. Most of the guys are American guys. They don't play
20
that
years of
Canadian
instincts.
Your instinct is to take a knee, just to down it wherever you catch it. And unfortunately, that cost the Elks a point last year against Saskatchewan. Saskatchewan won the game, and that was right at the end of the game. So, it's nuts because I think Saskatchewan came back in that game. The Elks were winning, I believe, 11-3. Saskatchewan comes back, ties it, and then that kick in the end zone gave Saskatchewan the win. But you know what's funny? I don't know if you recall, because as we were talking about this, I didn't think about this in preparation for the show, but you remember day 3 of practice? At the end of the practice, you practice field goal, and you were on the field goal team. And whenever they practiced that kick out, it was always this silly situation where our kicker would miss it on purpose so that we could practice this. And then you'd have Burkdale's punt it back in, and every dude on the field was scrambling to be the guy to kick it back and forth. Because that is the most uncommon scenario, but it's something you have to prepare for. But that actually played out in 2010. We got a clip of this. So Trey, play that clip of the Alouettes Toronto game, because this is in essence what could happen as a result of this quirky CFL rule, which I think makes things fantastic. I don't know about you. Let's watch the clip and you judge.
They want to kick this ball out. Noel Prefontaine is going to go back right now. They didn't have anybody in the end zone.
Well, they were deciding whether they were just going to put Chad Owens back to run it out or whether they were going to put their kick-out team, which means that if Montreal misses and they don't feel first option is you run it out, get it just past your goal line and kneel down. Second option, if you don't think you can run it out, is you kick it back out into the field of play.
36 yards for the win. 1 point would also win it. Here we go. Duvall, the kick is up. It is wide. Knocked down. Now they have to kick it out. And they do.
Got to get 5 yards.
Now Duvall kicks it back through.
Got to kick it out again.
They will kick it out, but they don't get it out. Who has the football? It's a touchdown, Montreal.
Yeah, that's awesome, Chef. I know a lot of people hate it. Even Ernie's writing in, yeah, the Americans laughed at this rule. You'll get rewarded for missing a field goal. Yeah, that's right. It's the quirkiest rule in the world, but it leads to that. You used to get 2 or 3 games a year that would end up with the Music City Miracle at the end of the game, right? But instead of the lateral play, you got that back and forth action. And, for me, I like the tradition of the rule. I get that it drives bettors crazy. It drives NFL, American football purists crazy. But for me, I've always loved that part of the game.
Yeah, I love it too. I love that. First of all, that clip, courtesy of TSN, great call by Rob Black. Miss Rod's excitement on the call, but a lot of familiar faces there. But yeah, it's a quirk of the Canadian rule, like our 3 downs, like our 1 yard off the ball, like our wide field and 12 guys on the field. It's what makes the game uniquely Canadian. Now, again, I'm a little bit two-faced here because last year we had an episode where we kind of, we had a debate with Michael Ball about, if the CFL wants to kind of jump in the pond with the NFL and, get some of that market share, it's going to have to change a lot of rules. Is this one of the rules? I don't know. I think Americans would much rather see Canadian football be played by 11 men on a smaller field before we change something quirky like this, because look at the kickoff rule in the NFL. They changed the kickoff rule to that XFL style rule, and for me, it's kind of garbage. And it took the NFL how many years? They moved the kickoff tee up. I think it was 10 yards, so that they'd reduce the amount of injuries in the NFL. And the kickoff on an NFL football game had become redundant for the last 10 years. Kickers have gotten stronger legs. The game opens with the guy kicking the ball through the end zone. They go to commercial for another 3 minutes and they start playing. Why don't you just start playing on first down? So as many quirky rule changes that we have that make our game unique, and maybe people look at us sideways, well, I look at things in the NFL the same way. I mean, our clock stops in the last 3 minutes, which gives teams equal opportunity to make a comeback at the end of the game. The NFL, you got a 40-second play clock. The clock runs, And
Game's
next thing
over
you
in 2
know,
minutes.
the game's over with 2 minutes left. Guys are shaking their hands. There's still time on the clock, and I don't like that. I like the ability for teams to play right up until the end. So yeah, are there some quirks? Is this a quirky rule? Yeah, you're not going to see too many games end like this, but at the same time, you know.
And you know what it comes down to? You know what it comes down to? Did it help us win, or did it give us a cheesy loss? And you're allowed to flip flop throughout the year because you're going to feel both. Chev, it's about time to go to a break, but I think there's one thing we should bring up today is the Mavericks family that we talked about. A loss of family member this week in a tragedy. I'm sure you all heard something about. Chev, you want to give the details on that and how?
Yeah, so one of our players on our spring team. So this boy, Giuseppe Loria, grew up playing Mavericks football. He played in the spring with my son Brett. He's one of our players. This is one of our families. Fortunately, they got involved in a tragic car accident in Lethbridge, and unfortunately, Giuseppe is the boy in the middle there. He lost his youngest sister in the accident. Mom's still in the hospital. His older sister, or the older sister, is still in the hospital in a coma. Giuseppe's starting to move around and stuff, but yeah, just a real tragedy. It was a head-on collision a few weeks ago. So they've got a GoFundMe for the Loria family. We'll try and get the link up there for any of you that might want to contribute. We'll put it up in the comments. But yeah, just a sad thing. And when we talk about coaching football, we love it that our sons play. I love that my son plays football. All three of my boys played football, and both Sheldon's boys played football. But you also we coach because we love being part of that community, part of that family, developing young men, interacting with their families, and being just kind of one little stop on their path to greatness. And unfortunately, for Giuseppe and their family, who actually also lost their dad a couple of years ago, this path is a lot rougher than most. So yeah, if you can find it in your hearts to contribute to their family, any proceeds are going to help the family just kind of basically pick up the pieces and go for it. I don't know how you pick up the pieces.
I have no idea.
I don't know how you do, but I know it's not easy, and it's not going to be easy for them. So our prayers are with them, not just the Mavericks family, not just Sheldon and I, but we know that you're all with the Loria family. And yeah, we just want to give that up. What we'll do now is we'll take a little break. We'll come back. I think we're going to talk more CFL. It's kind of a CFL day. We got a few other things, but next segment, I think we're going to hit the Labor Day stuff. Talk a little bit about that classic, because that's a big deal coming up in Calgary. And we appreciate that you guys are joining us right here on the ride. We'll be back in a few minutes.
Performance Freight Management is a global logistic freight shipping company that will handle the entire shipping process for any package to any country. Whether it be a simple truck shipment from your office to Toronto or your company importing generators from China, PFM Freight handles it all. We have the expertise and technology to handle any shipping requirements. Skip the guesswork and let us take the shipping pain off your plate.
Okay, we're back. Listen, thanks so much for joining us here on the ride with Chevy and Nasty. We're live every Tuesday, 11 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, and I'm in the mountains now. I'm in Panorama. Sheldon's back in Calgary. Please like and subscribe to our show. You can find us on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, X, Spotify. We're even on Apple Podcasts. I'm assuming we're making it to Amazon Podcasts. I don't know, but I know that. That New Heights with Travis and and Jason Kelsey, they just signed a multi-million-dollar deal with Amazon Podcasts. Maybe that's where we're headed one day, Sheldon.
Well, I don't know if it's common knowledge, but they did call me up a couple of weeks ago, Amazon, and I did say no to the deal just because they're putting certain constraints on creativity, and so I just suggested that they give the Kelseys a call.
Well, and that makes sense. And that makes sense. Neither of us are going out with Taylor Swift right now, so that's probably part of the package there. To get her on a couple of episodes too. We could have provided that, but what we could provide if they did call us is an intrepid producer, our producer Trey Smith, right? So when Trey came aboard and he was introduced to us at our men's mental health movie night through Daryl, fantastic guy. Really, really adds to the value of our show with his sports knowledge, everything he does for us, and he's quite smart, sharp kid and stuff. And I was like, Trey, are you the same Trey Smith that played for the Blue Bombers? I don't know if you remember, there was a receiver, Trey Smith, and he played for the Riders as well. And he's like, no, that's not me. And I thought it was a joke that I said, yeah, maybe I ran into you before. And then last week he shows a picture of him with the Grey Cup, and I'm looking at that picture. And I guess it was when he was in Vulcan, and he's like, I think you brought the Grey Cup to Vulcan, and I certainly did. Because
and what year was that?
So that would have been after the 2014 Grey Cup, and Jack Fulton joined us on the show last year. And so I look at this picture,
there he is.
And next thing you know, I'm like, Trey, that's me standing right beside you. So there's an intrepid producer right in the middle with the Under Armour shirt there. There's Trey. He doesn't look like that now. If he did, there'd be a problem, Benjamin Button. But how small the world is, hey? How small the world is.
Yeah, that's something. And it's so funny. I think 2014 was like yesterday. For him, he was like, what are you there, 12? 10?
10, 11. Probably 11 years old, I think he said in that picture.
Crazy.
So
yeah,
it is. And the world is small. Yeah, March 2014. And the world is small. And I'll tell you how small it is, Sheldon. You and I met when I got to Calgary, or so we thought we met when we got to Calgary. But
oh God,
we actually met in 2003. Oh, you hear? Yeah. So Rob Evans has a picture of him with the Grey Cup at Fire Station 20. It was still in 1992.
We met in 2003 though.
Well, we met on the field in the Labor Day Classic. Let's have a look at this clip. Let's tee off this segment in style.
1st and 20, and Ray with Napastic in pursuit. Ricky Ray is going to take off with the ball, and he's forced out at the Eskimo bench, and a flag goes down there.
There's going to be
more than a flag.
Well, there's going to be some ejections now as we see the temper start to flare. We see some players getting thrown out.
Bench is clearing.
Sean Fleming.
Shades of the Flames and the Oilers. A number of Stampeders coming across the field.
I tell you what, they were kind of picking through the pile, sorting out which guys they didn't want in that scrum. And Sean Fleming, the kicker, got thrown out of there.
And for the first time in his career, Dan Kepley is a peacemaker.
Well, one of the things that Jim Barker said was we have to make smart decisions on a football field. That doesn't mean just as we're playing the game, but also don't take stupid penalties.
Jim Daly all the way across.
Well, he's trying to get a hold of his player to bring his player back. Now the Eskimos are in his face.
Yeah, Kevin Lensford with some words for Daly. More flags. Well, we've talked about this rivalry over the years, but I don't remember in over a decade of these games seeing anything quite like this.
That was awesome. Man. Yeah, I remember that. I was clipped there. That was a block in the back that kept me from sacking Ricky Ray on that play. So I was heated myself, and Garrett Smith just went in there to finish him off.
Well, he went in there late, finished him off.
Was that you and me at the end though when I was trying to cool down?
So further to that clip, I mean, I think so we saw you at the beginning of the clip, and then I was right there when Garrett Smith shoved Ricky Ray, and I was the guy that shoved Garrett Smith as he tried to get up. I shoved him through the bench. The brawl started, and all hell broke loose. I mean, that was before I knew you. That was before I knew Demetrius Maxey. That's before you knew Raheem Abdullah. Like how the paths crossed on a Monday.
It all started right there.
it all started right there. And the crazy thing is, if that clip went a little bit longer, which I don't think Trey has, that was also the game where, or that, about 5 seconds later is where Ed Hervey
Pulls
swung
off his
helmet
Yep.
at Davis Sanchez. Instead of hitting Davis Sanchez, he hit the ref. But have you ever seen anything like that before or since? Because that was pretty heated, man.
I've had a couple of brawls like that, but nothing remotely close to that, right?
I've never seen a coach like Jim Daly was at the Edmonton bench.
Yeah,
I've never seen that before.
Yeah. Jim Daly kept his cool for the most part, but he would get heated, and when he saw stuff like that going on, he would. Well, first of all, he was trying to get us back, but then I think he started grabbing Comiskey or somebody like that, pushing him back. But yeah, no, that was something. And you talk about rivalry games, right? Like the Riders and the Bombers are another good one. But that was 2003. So that was my first taste of the Battle of Alberta.
Yeah,
and
same here.
I'll tell you, on the line, it feels like a playoff game. Like you play at a high level of intensity year round, but there's something that happens in the playoffs where it's just so much harder. The fights are just like, it's like a knife fight, right? Is win or die. And the same thing at Labor Day. It's just a different tempo of game with different things at stake. And yeah, I'm not surprised that tempers get flared. But you know what I really loved about that game? If you take a look at that, Chev, the stadium was full. Back then, 2003 to 2010, maybe after that even, you couldn't buy a ticket for Labor Day.
Oh yeah.
Right? They used to say when selling season tickets, buy your Labor Day tickets and get the rest of the season thrown in for free as a bonus, right? Everybody just needed to have their ticket to the Labor Day, no matter what it cost.
Oh, it was the biggest thing in Alberta. And we mentioned in a poem, and I wrote that line in the poem specifically because I remember when I signed with Edmonton. I signed with Edmonton midway through the 2002 season. I got picked up at the airport. I can't even remember who it was that picked me up at the time. It was an old guy. Picked me up, drive me to the doctor. First thing was doctor
up in 99.
And the first thing he said, he's like, and I was actually after Labor Day, but he said, all we got to do is beat the Stamps in Labor Day. And then when I signed with the Stamps in 2004, I remember it was old Ron Rook. Remember Ron Rook?
Oh yeah.
And he.
You mean Doug Rook?
Oh, Doug. Sorry,
Doug Rook. Yeah.
Doug Rook. And he was same thing. He'd sit in the office. He said, "Listen, we don't care about anything other than that Labor Day game." And I think that's the benchmark for what type of team you are, right? Like that intensity that you're bringing. I got to say, I was blessed because I got to play in that one. That one for me was my most memorable one because, again, it was my first taste. Like you said, there was a brawl. I mean, how many times, I don't know, as a kid, you watch hockey. I grew up watching hockey. I never thought in a million years in football I'd be involved in a bench clearing brawl in football. Never, not at the professional level. And as much as, Tom Higgins is not that coach. Like, he is not that guy that's looking back as a proud moment on his resume, the head coach. And in fact, if you ask Tom Higgins, he'll be the first to tell you that he got sucker punched at the beginning of that scrum. And for the first 30 seconds, he was on his back with everybody over top of him. And he was worried. He'll tell you, he's like, he was worried that he'd be caught on TV on his back, not being able to get up, and everyone just laughing at him, right? So that was his memory of that. But
it's funny what goes through a guy's head.
Yeah, but I was very lucky because I got to be involved in 12 of those, 11 of them with the Stamps and the one with Edmonton. And gosh, I tell you, you talk about, you mentioned playoffs versus that game. And I think that game is even more intense than the playoffs. To me, the playoffs is you're approaching a chess match. Like you run out of the tunnel and you don't know what the other team is necessarily going to do, but you know that you both got to be a little bit guarded. You got to be a little bit guarded until you figure out what's going on, and then you start firing all your guns. Labor Day, everything is shot out of a cannon from the second those F-18s fly, or F-16s, whatever they are,
F-14s.
F-18s fly over top, right? Like, I'll never forget Patrick Kabongo from the Edmonton Eskimos at the 55-yard line after we run out of the tunnel, calling out Jeff Pilon. And Jeff Pilon, Patrick Kabongo, 6'7", 380 pounds. Jeff Pilon, 6'6", probably 320 pounds. The meet at center field on Labor Day in front of, like you said, the whole crowd full, and they were just chest bumping like two humongous, I don't know, gorillas in the wild. It was just ridiculous, and the intensity was like before even the kickoff happened. It was as you're running out. That's how much this game means. And I think we bring it up because, we've talked plenty of times on this show about how the CFL has to do something to get more fans in the stands. The CFL, but there are some things CFL is doing right. And one of the things, the two huge silverbacks, just smashing chests. That was Pilon and Kabongo. But one of the things the CFL is doing right is keeping some of these traditional games and rivalries, because they could easily try something different. But they know how much this game means. They know how much the Banjo Bowl means in Regina, Saskatchewan. And so for you and I, this game is a big deal. I'm going to be there on Monday because I know how intense it is. And really, it's on the fans to show up for this one. Because if you show up, whether you're from Edmonton and you're driving down, or whether you're from Calgary, it doesn't matter how the teams are in the standings. That's the one thing about this game. It doesn't matter how the teams are in the standings. When this game kicks off, it's going to be a showdown. I had one game where it was a blowout, and we beat Edmonton. I was at Calgary. We beat Edmonton. I think it was 50-3. It's the only blowout. Every other game was just like, as old Jim Ross of the WWE would say, it was a slobber knocker. And that's what I'm looking forward to on Monday. We mentioned the poem, two teams, slightly different path. The Elks seem to have found a little bit of identity now, right?
I'd say that's putting it lightly. I mean, this one, if you're a Stamps fan, this one's got you nervous. Because the other way, so as long as I played, and I think for years afterwards, Labor Day followed a basic script. The Eskimos came to Calgary. Calgary gets the win. You go back to Edmonton, they get the win in the rematch, right? And as a player, I was okay with that. I always wanted to sweep the Elk, right? The Eskimos when I played. But you just kind of realize, geez, it's tough to beat the same team twice in a row after 4 days, right? But this is one of those things where I've got the feeling right now with McLeod Bethel Thompson refining his kind of leadership style or how he wants to handle the red zone, knowing that Trey Ford may be healthy this week. For me, they've got a lot of weapons and a lot of ways to attack us. They've got a ground game that we probably, I know it's just a sample size of maybe 4 weeks that it's really been on, but it's a ground game that we haven't seen since the days of Mike Pringle or Charles Roberts in Winnipeg.
They got a scary running game, and I think they gave the Alouettes a scare last week. We saw that. I mean, they took the Alouettes to do a third quarter comeback before they won, but the Elks had that game well in hand.
You don't have to call it the Elks. That just doesn't work. Well, but back to Labor Day though, like, so you say you're going to the game, and I'm seriously thinking about picking up tickets, which is weird because like I was saying, 10 years ago you couldn't. But my Labor Day tradition, since we had gotten into camping probably 12 years ago, gone every weekend. I'd usually be back for Monday, and we'd sit out. We have a walkout deck kind of over Simons Valley up in the northwest of Calgary. And the coolest thing in the world is that on Labor Day, 20-30 minutes before the flyover in the national anthem, the F-18s are circling right in our backyard. We just sit out there on the deck and listen to the F-18s. Cool. So we get it's not as low or as loud as it is over the stadium, but it's kind of been a neat thing because you got to be honest. Like, that is one of the coolest experiences as a player, is it not? Getting the low flyover.
Oh man, that is the coolest experience. And actually being in the stands for it as a fan is pretty damn awesome too. And you talk about Labor Day traditions. I mean, most of my adult life, my Labor Day tradition was suiting up for the game. And since I retired, I started going with my sons. One of my buddies bought an old RV that he never uses to go camping. And I think the one of 3 times in the year he takes it out is to drive to McMahon so we could cook hot dogs and throw the football around,
that's
and
awesome.
Then go watch the game. And it's fun because I'm not a regular tailgater. I actually never tailgate at the games, but it's the one time that I do it with my boys and my buddies and their buddies and their kids. So we're usually 12 people. We really enjoy the experience. The hard thing is getting a parking pass, and I'm still working on that, but I got my tickets for the game. So hopefully we're going to we're going to tailgate at the game on Monday. But I'm looking forward to it. Trey, if you could put up that graphic just to make sure, our buddy Jay McNeil came to our men's movie night. We want to make sure we give it proper due. Part of them filling the stands is guys like us speaking for the quality of the game. And it's starting at 4 p.m. next week, which I think is a great start time because it'll end by 7, which gives kids plenty of time to get home and get ready for school day because I know school starts the next day. But it's a fantastic experience. The game is great. Usually the in-game entertainment is great. Hopefully it's going to be a nice day, not like today in Calgary. And, those two teams are going to bring it because no matter what they are doing in the standings, they always bring in a Labor Day. So looking forward to that next week. Just again, brings up so much nostalgia for me for having played in it, but also being a fan and now the little tradition I've started with my kids. So I do appreciate it.
There you go.
We talked about the CFL doing some good things. The other good thing they're doing is this year they're having the Touchdown Pacific. So they've had the Touchdown Atlantic. They've experimented with that a number of times. I had an opportunity to play in one Touchdown Atlantic, which was really cool. They're doing a game in Victoria this year, and it's between the Red Blacks and the BC Lions. And I'll tell you what, Sheldon, we've been talking a little bit about the BC Lions for the last number of weeks, really focusing on them. At the beginning of the year, they're early favorites for Grey Cup contention.
Yeah.
They went on a bit of a slump. They lose their starting quarterback, Vernon Adams. He's still out with an injury. He's starting to practice this week. They wind up signing Nathan Rourke, but he's not looking too good. And do we have a controversy in BC yet, or are we close?
Well, let's settle that one right now.
Yeah.
You're the head coach. Who are you starting this week?
Well, I think this week because Vernon Adams is just coming back, so they don't have to rush. Okay,
let me change the question then. Let's say that Vernon Adams is ready to go. Coach, I'm ready. I'm feeling great. They're both saying all the right things. They both led this team in the last 24 months. Who are you starting?
I tell you what, I think if it's this week, it's not the coach's decision. I think it's GM and the owner of the team that are going to make this decision because of the amount of money they paid Nathan Rourke. I think if they're both saying the good thing, even though Nathan Rourke faltered, like Nathan Rourke has 0 touchdowns in 2 weeks and 3 interceptions, 3 turnovers. He hasn't earned his – now, yeah, do we give him a little bit of grace because he's coming in midway through the season? He doesn't have the benefit of training camp. These are all new receivers than he left BC with. But this is the problem. This week, it's okay. If Vernon Adams was back, I think it would be an ownership decision, and I think they would pick Nathan Rourke. If you're a coach, purely based on the numbers, this is all you care about as a head coach for your quarterback, their touchdown to interception ratio. And right now, Nathan Rourke has 0 touchdown passes in 2 games. It's 2 games. It's a small sample size, but he has 3 interceptions. And Vernon Adams has 14 touchdowns to 6 interceptions, which is the best ratio in the league. So
let me throw the question back to you then. I love that. So let me throw the question back to you. Is there a quarterback controversy in BC right now?
Not this week, but if Nathan Rourke doesn't do something special this week and Vernon Adams comes back next week, I think we have a quarterback controversy.
Yeah, I'll go with you on that one. I'd go as far as saying leaving the GM out of it as a head coach. I think this would be a perfect week to go back to Vernon Adams if he was 100% healthy, and let Nathan Rourke continue to develop. But this will not last long. And like you said, at most, we're going to see within 2 to 3 weeks which direction the BC Lions are going to go. But we already know that too, don't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think everybody here knows that in a matter of just weeks, Nathan Rourke is the guy. You don't pay somebody. He has to be. This is a very, very he puts them in a very difficult situation. And we said it last week. Or 2 weeks ago when he signed, we said, you don't get rid of Vernon Adams right away because you want to make sure that Nathan Rourke is the guy that you signed. And we thought he would be, but so far he hasn't been. Yeah. Now, what happens if he continues to not be the guy, but they guaranteed him all that money? Did he just win the lottery and they gambled wrong? Because Vernon Adams has proved himself. It's Chev. This is a story that we're not going to be able to solve tonight. So I think with that, we're going to take it to break. I want to thank all you guys for watching and listening so far. We want to thank our sponsors, Performance Freight Management and We Drone Real Estate Media. Guys, when we come back, we're going to change it up a little bit. We're going to talk a little bit of old school hockey. Lou Lamoriello, his rules. Is there still room for that in the NHL today? Is there room for that in sports today? Well, we'll get your opinion on that when we come back next on The Ride.
Performance Freight Management is a global logistic freight shipping company that will handle the entire shipping process for any package to any country. Whether it be a simple truck shipment from your office to Toronto or your company importing generators from China, PFM Freight handles it all. We have the expertise and technology to handle any shipping requirements. Skip the guesswork and let us take the shipping pain off your plate.
All right, let's just wrap up the CFL talk because we got a couple of things we want to wrap on. First of all, every week we talk about our episode, and today's episode number 40. We've had quite a few episodes, and always Daryl pops up with a comment. Who's the number 40 that you played with? And I never get the number off the top of my head. I can't think of who the jersey number is. Sheldon, you said you would do some work. Do you remember who's number 40 that you
Not with the stamps. I had to go back to Iowa State Cyclones in 1995 with a defensive end / outside linebacker, Glenn Waterhouse from Iowa. Waterhouse, of course, his nickname became Casa de Agua.
Casa de Agua. Okay.
I'm pretty sure he was number 40. I could be, Mark, if you're listening, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but
see, and I just can't off the top of my head. I didn't do the research, but what I did see pop up on the screen, and Jamie mentioned it, is we got this weekend in CFL action, we got the Bombers playing the Riders, and that's going to be a great game. Two rivals, big time, and Charlie Roberts will be honored on the Winnipeg Wall of Fame. And I think that's worth mentioning. But Charlie Roberts, great running back that played sort of in our prime. We had to stop him when he was with Winnipeg, and they had him as part of that 1-2 punch with
Thunder and Lightning,
big Mike Sellers, right? And I remember I stopped Mike Sellers a couple of times on that fullback dive. But when you stop Mike Sellers, all they do is pitch it out on the shovel pass to Charlie Roberts. And he's a great player. We talked about him last year when we had Doug Brown on our show. Remember we had Doug Brown last year?
Oh, yeah.
And he talked about Charlie Roberts to be the only guy that would show up and he'd have a smoke at halftime, a smoke before the game, and a smoke after the game. And he was just like just the coolest cucumber out there. But what a performer, hey?
Dude, that guy he had the perfect combination of speed and agility. He had a low center of gravity. He wasn't a big guy. But he ran hard, and he could change directions like no other. But to be honest, and he could catch coming out of the backfield. My biggest memories of those days was the Thunder and Lightning combination. I'm not saying that he couldn't do it by himself, that he wasn't a great back by himself, but I still have, I once watched the Mike Sellers highlight film from those days, where it was the running back combination. And I think I was featured on their highlight film like 11 times. Tackling the wrong guy, getting run over by the wrong guy, reaching out for Charlie as he runs out of my grasp. I mean, he was a special player and certainly deserves the honor.
You know what? And if you guys want, you can go on our YouTube page at Chevy and Nasty. Just look up our episode from last year with Doug Brown. It was in our season 1, I believe. And he talks. I mean, we had a great talk about all things football, especially the Simon Fraser losing their football program last year. But we did talk about Charlie Roberts, and there's a section there where he talks about Charlie and how special of an athlete he was. And, It's one thing for us to talk about him, kind of see on the outside, but when you have a teammate talk about a guy that's special, you might get some neat insight there. Again, wrap up CFL. We got some predictions to do before we get to the Islanders. So
you want to do those now?
Yeah, let's do them now. Trey, show us how we did last week. So last week we tied. So I feel like I'm catching up to you. Like I don't feel like I'm so bad this week.
Yeah, and I was so mad because the one pick I had the Riders over Toronto, and that missed kick. I was one of the guys that was celebrating for like 3 seconds before I realized what happened. Right. And the other one was the Ottawa BC game. And I went, when you changed that one pick, excuse me, I was going to change that pick, but I'm like, no, I'm not going to pull a Chevy. I'm just going to stick with my picks. Right. And I wish I did.
I changed the Saskatchewan Toronto pick because I just had this feeling. It was a tie. It was like, oh, so close. But it was the Rouge. I was the Rouge. The Rouge gave me a tie with you. But this week, we already mentioned, well, let's start with the game that we mentioned. Stamps Elks, Labor Day Classic. Stamps have the advantage that they're hosting it. Elks are coming in hot. Who are you thinking?
Oh, Labor Day is so hard because you can almost throw out records out the window. Like right now, I really believe that the Elk are the better team, right? I think they have more weapons, but Calgary's been hurting, and this has got to be the week that they take a home stand. Do I think there's a good chance of it? No. If this was just any other game, I don't think so. But the Labor Day tradition, special things happen on Labor Day, and I think the Stampeders just have to pray that the offense puts it together and the defense puts together a full 4 quarters. So I'm going to call the Stamps at home at Labor Day.
Well, you're calling the Stamps. Well, it's funny because my reason for calling the Stamps is they've had almost 3 weeks to prepare for this. They have to have a singular focus. When I remember when I was in the NFL and I was with the Jets, and their singular focus was beating the Patriots. Like they had a whole, like a script, like one period of every practice was beat the Patriots. You plan for training camp, you plan for the season, whoever the first week's opponents is, but there was a beat the Patriots section. And I believe that this next game is so important to the Stampeders' identity as a team, where they need to go, that the entire focus is beat the Elks. And for that reason alone, they've had almost 3 weeks to prepare for this moment. I can't see them wasting it. They do have a good team, and Jake Mayer and McLeod Bethel Thompson are actually on the top of the league in the quarterbacks. They're like in the top 5, each of them. So, but I do think that the Stampeders have a slight edge, and they have that swagger. I know Edmonton has picked up a little bit of swagger. Having played Montreal so well and a little bit of identity picked up, but I'm picking Calgary in this one as well. So we're even there. Toronto Hamilton Labor Day battle. That's taking place on Monday as well. What do you think?
I'm going to go with the favorite. Just pick the best team. Toronto's the best team. They're gonna walk out with a win.
Well, Chad Kelly had a great game last week, but he didn't throw a touchdown either. They had to rely on Rouge to win. So I am going to go back to, if Bo Levi Mitchell is starting, which I believe he is, I'm a believer. I'm going to pick.
What's his record?
I don't care. He's still the best. He's still actually the second best quarterback in the league right now. His defense got to pick it up. They got 2 weeks under Chris Jones. Hopefully they turn around. But I'm picking Hamilton in this game. Winnipeg, Saskatchewan.
Riders at home.
Riders at home. I'm going Winnipeg. I think there's a lot of heat in Saskatchewan now. There's a lot of heat, and I don't think it's good. Trevor Harris didn't have I know it was 19-19 going into that last kick, but Toronto put up 300 and whatever yards, and Saskatchewan only had like 198, or something like that. So it wasn't a lot, and I'm going to take Winnipeg. Winnipeg to me is the favorite in that game, so I'm going to pick Winnipeg. Jamin's going to like me for that pick. And then Ottawa, BC, touchdown Victoria. We got some quarterback problems plaguing BC. We're not too sure. We got Ottawa, the Drew Brown's doing pretty good. Who you got?
This is a tough one. I mean, really, really at the heart of this one, the Red Blacks I've been underestimating them all year long. And folks, the Ottawa Red Blacks are a very strong team. I don't even know their record right now. What are they like?
7-2.
7-2. They're a very strong team. But Labor Days are funny things. But this Labor Day is not truly in their home stadium.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of unanswered questions for Nathan Rourke. Now, my problem is this. I got burnt by BC 2 weeks in a row. How many games, how many weeks can they continue to lose? I'm almost going to play the percentages that they were going to turn it around. And so with that, I'm going Ottawa Red Blacks. They are the real deal. I know I'm going back and forth on that one a lot, but I think BC still has some problems to solve, and I think they've lost their identity. This is probably the week they put it back, but not based on what I've seen the last 3, 4, 5.
I think this is the game where Nathan Rourke puts together. He knows the heat is on. He's got the money in the bank. Now he's got Vernon Adams coming back, breathing down his neck. This is the game where he turns it on.
And
I'm picking BC.
It's a long trip. It's a long trip for the Red Blacks to head all the way out there too.
Yeah.
Not a bad pick. I reserve the right to change it by the end of the show.
Well, maybe. So that wraps up the CFL talk. Unless you want to change your pick.
No.
Interesting article. We kind of threw this in towards the end. I saw it. I threw it out there. Anthony Duclair signed with the New York Islanders, 4 years, $14 million. And I guess there was a big stink online because he cut his hair, cut his dreadlocks before reporting to camp. And, for those that don't know, Lou Lamoriello, GM in New York, he has some hard and fast rules. And these are his hard and fast rules. When you play for his teams, no facial hair except in the playoffs, no long hair past the collar, no jewelry, necklaces, or earrings. Jackets and ties must be worn to games and on the team bus or plane. No broadcasters and media permitted in the team charter. This is like a hearkening back to the old school days, right? And Anthony Duclair, following the team procedure, cut his hair. He had dreadlocks. He's African-American. You see the picture there. Cut his dreads. And again, for the most part, I got no problem with this. But there was an article on Yahoo Sports that we read, and it was basically Gord Miller of TSN tweeting that, well, this is archaic. It almost borders on cultural insensitivity and all that. Sheldon, what do you think about all this? What do you make of this?
Well, yeah, and I think we talked about this a little bit off the air, that it felt kind of race baity to you. There, you can make two arguments. One, is this old school? Yeah, it's old school. For sure it is. Is it for every player? No, it's not for every player, but it's for every player that agrees to play there, gets behind it. Now, in terms of the article saying, he said, not only is it archaic rules, but even more so because certain cultures like their long hair. What he's saying, just because he's black, that it's cultural for him to have long hair. Whatever happened to, hey, I like this hair, so I'm going to go with it, right? You see, you got white guys with mullets, with buzz cuts, with long flowing locks, and the same thing with people of any race. So I thought the article was a little race baity for me.
Yeah, the Gord Miller comments.
The Gord Miller comments were, because for me, there's only one culture that matters. And that's the culture that you develop in the locker room with the guys. Now, there's a lot of ways to build that culture. Back in the day, John Madden had a bunch of individuals, and he wanted them to be individuals, do whatever they want, just show up and play. A guy like Lou Lamoriello, he's got a different set of values. And in the pros, it's not like I'm in college and this was my local college and I have to go there and I'm stuck with the rules. Guys choose to be there. The only thing I can see is if he came in fresh and started like pushing out old players, and then you might have to be in a situation where I don't like this anymore. I was here first. I'm not comfortable with these new rules. I don't even know if your rules are going to work for us. I request a trade, right? Yeah. But if I'm signing with a team, it's not like he came out and questioned it.
No.
I mean, he's coming in and he's buying in. For me, if I'm looking at a guy like that with the long flowing dreads that he's known for, and he comes into my locker room and he shaves his head just like I did, now we're brothers, right? Now we're a team. So
and in that, there was another article I read. Matt Martin was one of Lou Lamoriello's players that when Lou was in Toronto, same thing. Matt Martin defends Lou Lamoriello. He's like, listen, he doesn't do it to exude dominance over his players. That kind of comes from the New York Yankees thing. George Steinbrenner,
totally.
Everyone represents the team. And again, whatever your reason is for having your long hair or your preference or whatever, Anthony Duclair chose to sign with the Islanders. He was a free agent. He could have signed anywhere else. He knew the stakes going in. So for other people to say, "Oh, this is insensitive," that was upfront. That was totally upfront. And like you said, this guy is choosing to be part of the team. And that says a lot about the player. And that says a lot about what people think about Lou Lamoriello. And Lou Lamoriello, he's a successful exec in the NFL. He's a Hall of Fame exec. I mean, he's won a number of Stanley Cups with the New Jersey Devil back in the Martin Brodeur days. And, I kind of like it. I mean, I'm with the fire department. Would I love to grow a beard? Yes, I would. But, we have a rule that you don't have a beard. For the guys on the floor, it's for safety of using our equipment. I work in the office. I will never put on my face piece. But yet, because I'm part of the team, if they don't change the rule, I have to abide.
Patrick Waugh shaved his beard, didn't he?
And that's what I was going to say. What I love about this Lou Lamoriello thing is if you dig a little deeper, it doesn't just apply to the players. It applies to everyone. And I love that. Because the one thing I hated was the hypocrisy of you got to wear a certain dress code on the bus and stuff. And then the one player comes in that challenges it. And we always saw that in the football locker room. You got to wear a shirt and tie on the bus, or a jacket and a collared shirt on the bus, and then the one guy comes in with a t-shirt and jeans, and you're
or a jacket with a t-shirt, just something to
and he's doing it because it's like, you can't tell me what to do.
Yeah.
And when there's a set of rules for some guys, and there's a set of rules for everyone else. And I saw that in the football locker room, and a lot of guys that put their heart and soul into it, that really wear the team colors and feel the team. When you see that, it's a little disheartening that there's no backbone to it. But when you're on a team where even your coach has to shave because that's the
Hall of Fame legend of the game, coach.
I'm okay with it. Like Patrick Waugh coming in, and that this guy who's won so many Stanley Cups he can't even count. And he's a coach, and he had to shave his beard. And he had a pretty big beard as a coach. He had to shave it too because he's buying in. I'm okay with that. I am okay with that. And so for the people that's saying, oh, this is antiquated, I kind of like that, because what I feel is lost in a little bit of sports these days is that respect factor and that ode to the past. And this, for me, I'm okay with it.
So you would, what you're saying is you would do it if you're a player. Yeah. Now for you, it's easy because I don't think you've ever had a hair past your shoulder or whatever, but let's say it was, everybody had to get a symbolic tattoo on the back of their calf, of a Tweety bird.
Yeah, it's a little different.
It's something to you that would make it kind of cringy. Like, I don't want to roll that way. I don't want a Tweety bird on my calf. Yeah. But if I want to be a part of this, would I do it? Now that's different because it's permanent.
This is a reasonable standard and a reasonable expectation for representing an organization. And I absolutely love it because, again, it goes into broader strokes. Like, I remember times when we would go to playoffs and a coach would say, nobody on Twitter, don't give them any billboard material. And there was always that one guy, number 80. You don't know which number 80, but I know which number 80 he was. And he'd go on Twitter on purpose and literally will call out the coaches on Twitter to see what he would do. And it's like, what are you doing? You're causing a distraction. You're doing it because you're so selfish, right? And so I do think that this expectation for players coming in, especially free agents, allows him to know who are the guys that are going to be selfish and who are not. And in big business, where everyone's making so much money, and it's so hard to determine the quality or character of a player when you got all these dollar signs in front of it and all these agents and all this noise. Something as simple as, can you do this to be part of the team, says a lot about a player. So I'm okay with that.
There you go. So I think with that, Chev, we went just over our time for tonight. I think I'm ready to put this one to bed. But do you have any last thoughts or last things you want to get off your chest this week?
No, we didn't talk about that. Trey won.
There you go.
We got 2 minutes of overtime. Listen, there was a couple of things we were going to talk about. Oasis. We were going to talk about Oasis reuniting. 15 years. Liam and Noel Gallagher, the two bad boys of British rock, finally having a reunion. Will they last long enough not to punch each other out on stage?
And it says they're 15 years after 15 years apart, but before those 15 years, there's another 12 years apart.
Yeah.
Like, was there not? Like, they broke up in the 90s.
And again, this has been big news. But for me, it's like Oasis was at the time when they first came out with Wonderwall. I think British media, British paparazzi, you know, they're quite a strong presence in swing modern opinion. I think they wanted them to be the next coming of the Beatles.
Oh, they were amazing in the 90s. So I was
Yeah.
down to school in the
How many
States.
songs they had? 2 songs?
Well, they had probably 11 albums. But yeah, I was just Googling that right now. It's funny because I was saying that earlier. Well, they've got a few good ones, and I can name you Don't Look Back in Anger and Wonderwall. Yeah.
Wonderwall.
But they were like anthems, right?
Yeah, but that's because they broke up, so they never had to fulfill their destiny. But anyhow, they're back together. Are you like all jazzed up about this, or is it meh?
I am a little bit. I like to see it because honestly, I was a big fan of their 2 songs.
But you know,
they were bigger than life. When I was in college, they were bigger than life. And so yeah, I'm kind of excited to see it again. But you know, now they're our age. They're older than us, right?
But that's what I'm saying. Is it too? Listen, I love like Guns N' Roses music is still timeless. Like you listen to Appetite for Destruction, you listen to Use Your Illusion 1 and 2, and you're like, my God, this is great music still to this day. Guns N' Roses, you know, Axl Rose went off to his wagon. They broke up forever. And if you listen to modern day Guns N' Roses, you just wish they stayed broken up because Axl Rose sounds like a dying horse. So with this Oasis
worse than that, I wish they never broke up in the first place.
Yeah, you wish they never did. But unfortunately, what I'm asking is this Oasis thing going to be like too little, too late? Like, is it too late? Like, Motley Crue did it. They broke up. They got back together. They're okay.
Champagne Supernova.
There you go, Champagne Supernova. But
I got you.
I think Aerosmith broke up for a day and then they got back together. And some great bands break up and get back together and they do okay. But I don't know. This is not big news for me. Like I think Motley Crue getting back together when they announced their tour a few years ago, coming back, that to me was bigger news than Oasis.
Yeah, but it's funny because these are all getting back together in their 40s and 50s. This is we need drug money tour or we need some fame and attention again.
I'd rather see the Spice Girls get back together and tour than these guys. Like I thought
Destiny's Child. How about Destiny's Child?
Yeah,
do you see that happening?
Yeah, well, maybe, who knows? But yeah, no, like there's so many other bands that I'd rather see than these guys. But again, it's made some big news today, some big waves. So that's all I wanted to really get off my chest. Do you have any bands that, like, I know Led Zeppelin broke up and got back together? Any band? Like
for me, I look back to more things like Metallica and some of the changes that they went through over the years, right?
Yeah. Well, when a band member dies, it's hard, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And these guys they're usually buddies. They're usually guys that grew up together, right? Yeah. And one of them dies, it's traumatic, but they rebounded, right?
Yeah, and sometimes the egos get in the way. But I remember watching one Tragically Hip interview where they made the decision before they even got big that a band will never work if the frontman's driving, luxury cars and the other guys are showing up in Fiats, right? Yeah. So they made the agreement right from day one, drummer to bass player to lead to rhythm guitar to frontman, that they all took the exact same cut. And that allowed them to tour, stay together. They're all on equal footing, equal vote in what they did. And that's sort of the secret to a long marriage. Sure, some of them did some side projects along the way, but not for money. It was more for the love or supporting other Canadian artists, right? Metallica almost split up for different reasons. Sometimes you just can't help but get the ego in the way. But, Oasis is back together. I think that's cool. Is it relevant anymore?
Chevy and Nasty was split up for 12 years.
That's right.
We split up for 12 years and we got back together. And now that, we've been on our 40th episode. So there is hope. There is hope for Liam and Noel if they take a cue from our book. But you can't do it without a great team between Trey producing the show, Daryl who feeds us ideas, all of you guys. This show is always fun to do. Even when I'm in Panorama and Sheldon's in Calgary, we're braving the cold weather. Want to remind you guys again, if you have an opportunity to help out the Loria family, our Mavericks family, who experienced a pretty very terrible tragedy last week, any little bit will help them. They're part of our community, even indirectly, and so any support would go a long way. But again, from Sheldon and I to do this show for all of you guys and with you guys in tow, it's really fulfilling, and I hope that We bring you something each week. Sheldon, you wrap it up.
That's it, guys. Yeah, guys, thanks again. We really appreciate those regulars that are following along and chiming in the conversation, and even you lurkers out there that are just listening in or watching from bed or wherever you might be right now. Guys, we really appreciate it. You're the reason we do this. If you guys, same thing, jump on our socials at any time. You have anything you think we just need to talk about and you want to weigh in on the air in the comments section, drop us a line on Facebook, Instagram, X, anywhere you can find Chevy and Nasty. Let us know what's on your mind, and we'll make sure we get it in on the next episode. But until then, guys, thanks again. It's The Ride with Chevy and Nasty, and we're out.